Good morning, guys. Good morning. Welcome to the lesson 3. Lesson 3, we are advancing. Today, we are going to see a new topic and we are going to learn about the radio story, all the history about the radio, and how important is this way of communication in our life. The picture you see in the screen is a classic radio in this instrument. We can catch the signal of the radio stations, and in the picture you see is the first way how the people did radio, right? So it's a process of story or signal that different machines were working together and the human were developing these kind of instruments to have radio. It's important to understand a little bit about the story. So a story worth listening to. Do you know how or who invent the radio? Turn on the radio, right? This is the question. Static hisses from the speaker as you twist the knob. Soon you find a station and music fills the room, right? The radio and the music change if you have a meeting, if you have a birthday, if you have something, the music and the radio fills the room. And where is the music coming from? The electrical cord gives the radio power, not sound, that the music is somewhere in the air. The radio is capturing it in the air. It's a signal in the air. Who figured out how to do that? A single person did not invent the radio. It's a process of scientists. Radios are systems, which means they have different parts that work together. Almost every device is a system. For example, from calculators to cars, usually different people invent each part of a device. This is why the inventions of the radio was going a group effort. It's a process. The radio is a process, and we have different devices. Radio in the cars, radio for homes, radio for companies, right? And then the portable radios, right? Portable cassette radios, and the until we have radios in the cell phones, radios in software, radios in the internet. It's a process. And in the story, the reading said that in the beginning they developed different devices. The story of radio could begin almost anywhere in the history of electricity. We'll start with Hans Christian Ørsted. Hans Christian Ørsted, a Danish physicist, right? Danish is from one country. Danish physicist in 1820, more than 260 years ago. Ørsted experiments showed that an electrical current is a wire acts like magnet. 50 years later, James Clerk Maxwell and showed why electricity and magnets were related. They both move through the air as an invisible waves. Radio is, in other words, magnet and electricity together in waves. Repeat after me. Waves. Right? In 1872, Mahlon Loomis used these waves to send messages, and he flew metal kites on top of two different mounts in Virginia. Right? Mounts in Virginia. He ran electricity through one kite. The other kite on a mountain top 14 miles away detect the first kite's electrical current. This, chicos y chicas, was an experiment. Who did it? Loomis, right? Mahlon Loomis did this experiment with one kite. What is a kite? Cometa, right? With one kite and the electricity touched the kite, and 14 miles away detect the first kite's electrical current. Energy waves had traveled from one kite to the other. So this experiment of the kites gave the first results of radio. A few years later, David Hughes heard static on his telephone line. It was a time before there was any other electricity in his home. Energy waves were causing the static. Turning electricity off and on made the static come and goes. Hughes made a wireless telegraph system using that discovery. In conclusion, the radio started with different devices together. For example, the telephone, the telegraph, all of these were systems and grow together at the same time with one magic word. What is the magic word? The static. Static. And how is the static working? With this. Pay attention. With the electricity and magnets relate. This is radio. In other words, static. In conclusion, a few years later, David Hughes heard the static of... No, I already read this, sorry. So I'm going to read the last paragraph. By the late 18th, most scientists knew about the spectrum. What is the spectrum? A race was on to use the waves to send messages. Nikola Tesla, right? Guglielmo Marconi, Nikola Tesla, and several other made wireless telegraph systems at nearly the same time. Así como les dije, telegraph, telephone, radio grow together like brothers and sisters at the same time. But the radio works with static. Okay? So now you know a little bit about radio. Now you know a little bit about the story. Let's go and do the classwork. Right? The last part said, by the 19th, Reginald Fessenden, a Canadian inventor, this is other inventor, right, have found a way to send voices across the radio waves. Then, one inventor after another added new or better parts to the radio. The radio you listen today was invented by dozens of people. Oh my God! Awesome! Amazing! The radio was invented with a dozen of people, baby! So, in this case, we learn a lot. The radio stations and the process of the invention. Not only one, talking about Nikola Tesla, Nikola Tesla, Guglielmo Marconi, the Canadian artist Malone Loomis, David Hughes. In the past, who else? Reginald Fessenden. Who else? Hans Christian Oster. So it's a process of inventors doing the radio. This is the lesson 3, and let's answer the classwork. The classwork said, name on the line. Circle the letter of the best answer to each question below. Messages were first sent. Messages were first sent using radio waves in the 70s, 17s, 18s, 19s, or 20s. Messages. Talking about voice messages. Remember Reginald the Canadian, right? I'm not going to give the answer. You have to remember. A radio is a system because. Option A, many people invented it. It uses radio waves. There are a lot of radio stations. It has parts that work together. I think it's the letter D, right? Write your answer on the lines below. Explain why radio will not, negative. Explain why radio will not have been invented without the discoveries of Arthur and Maxwell. Why? Because Ørsted and Maxwell invent or discover the magnet and the electricity connection, and this is static. This is the answer. Without static, we don't have radio. The last question is, based on the information in this selection, do you think one person invented television? Explain your answer. No, it's not true. It's the same process. The television was invented in a process of dozens of inventors. For this reason, this is the answer. The last one, you're not going to do it. We are not going to complain. Only the number 4, that in the television is in the same process of the radio. So this one, you're not going to do it. Okay, so bye-bye. Have a nice day. Do your classwork. And remember, the next class, I'm going to put a video with a list of experiments that you can make. And you're going to choose only one to make the video explanation of the experiment. Love you so much. Bye-bye.